what did it take for you to become successful?
Absolutely nothing special about me. It's just probably got a burning desire to be successful. We started with £250 each essentially. No clothing, no education in business, and we've just found a way. I have nothing but respect for anyone that runs any business.
Because you know what it takes.
It's f***ing hard, mate. So many times when it made no sense to carry on. First 3-4 years it made no sense to carry on.
So what made you carry on?
I don't know.
What's been the biggest mistake you've made? Everyone makes mistakes in business. There must have been one that comes to your mind straight away.
Probably
losing a father. I mean, my dad is the best man in my life. I can't imagine you being able to stay focused on running business or be able to stay focused on life.
I do associate a lot of Capo's growth to it indirectly. He was my best mate, you know, just like the way you refer to your dad, it was like assisting me with my dream to be a footballer at the time. You know, took me every training session, took me to like running lessons. My dad got diagnosed with cancer. The hospital phone rang, but it's the head of ICU, you need to come immediately. Basically, your dad's had a cardiac arrest. Critical condition, we don't think he's going to make it. 2 years to live, basically, is what they told us. He died 3 weeks later, never came. Any revenue numbers I've mentioned, I could have been a billionaire when what happened, and I wouldn't have changed it.
What does future projections and everything look like for you then?
The revenue levels he mentions were now beyond that, and it's like, I used to watch his podcast and think, wow, you know, when I get there, I made it, do you know what I mean? And now we're here and I'm like, never been more stressed, do you know what I mean? It's nuts. I do want to see how far we can take it.
Dan, what did it take for you to become successful? What was the attributes? What did you have to sacrifice? What was on the agenda for you to become successful?
Yeah, I suppose, well, I probably wouldn't class myself as successful. I would imagine quite a lot of people say that to you that come, but when you reached out or, you know, this opportunity come, I've watched this podcast for a long time, do you know what I mean? And I watched certain podcasts where people mention certain things and I thought that's what success looked like. In the reality of it, we're probably beyond that now, whether it's revenue levels, certain figures, you know, that don't mean very much. But then being in this place now, I still don't think we're successful. Do you know what I mean? So it's a bit, like I said to you earlier, I almost think like, why am I here? Who wants to listen to me? But then on our way up here, we said, didn't we? It's someone will need that bridging gap probably of starting from zero or being in the early infancy of business or whatever the stage of the journey is, to not just relating to these big spearhead figures within business, you know, because we're not that, you know, we've got a lot of growth still to go. But I suppose if you do push me, we have been successful in certain ways. You know, I never thought we'd be where we are. We'd done anywhere near what we've done. But going back to your original question of like, what has it taken to do that? What are the attributes I've got? Just absolutely nothing special about me. Like I say, I still don't think we're successful. There's nothing unique. It's just probably got a burning desire to be successful. Been resourceful. You know, we started with not absolutely nothing, but £250 each essentially. That's what we started with. No hand-ups, no, you know, network around us. We both were from a footballing background. No clothing, no education in business and we've just found a way. You know, it's like 7.5 years now. Made an awful lot of mistakes along the way, but we've just been relentless, you know, persistent, determined, and like I say, resourceful really, where we haven't known how to do things. We've gone and found out how to do them, you know, Google, you know, money, whatever it's been, we've just figured out a way to do it. So I would say out of everything, there's nothing special. It's just we've been determined. And I know you can run everywhere and get nowhere. Everyone can say, I work hard, which you do. Like all the successful people, you know, even now I struggle with it because, like you say, people perceive us successful and talk about balance and things like that. I struggle with it because even now I think if I work 5 hours less or there's somebody else out working or someone on the way up that is, you know, has got that over me. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, out of everything I would say, we've just been doggedly determined. You know, that's probably the thing I'd say.
No, fairs, bro. I mean, you are successful in your own rights. As we mentioned, you know, as you just said as well, you know, there are going to be people watching this podcast right now who look at a brand and what you've done as inspiration and motivation to one day get there. So for you to sit down on this podcast, firstly, I appreciate you, but I think the audience who are watching this, who are interested in that sort of field and industry, they're going to appreciate you massively as well for sharing what you're about to share in this podcast, man. But yeah, let's get into it. So you own a clothing line called Capo.
Yeah.
It's yourself and your partner. Mm-hmm. And you just said there, which I didn't know, you were in a footballing background.
Yeah, so that's kind of, if we go back to my background story, I from 8 onwards was at Blackburn Rovers Academy, like the professional academy environment, till 15, 16. And then went into semi-professional football, where I then met my now business partner, Adam, who, again, like I say, we both just had, like, I had a full-time job at the time. He was doing his own thing.
As well as football?
Yeah, so we both played semi-professionally.
Yeah.
It was Ashton United at the time, so decent level of football, nothing crazy. And we used to travel in together. And I'd always had the idea for the clothing brand, and specifically Capo. And I don't even know how the conversation came about. He obviously we got talking, mentioned the idea to him, and he was just like, well, why are you not doing it? And I couldn't really answer him, to be honest. So he just said, well, do you fancy doing it together? And I was like, yeah, why not? Let's give it a go. So
what year was this?
2017.
Okay.
So yeah, I've jumped quite a bit from, like, obviously school, football, to then 2017. So I would have been 22, 23 then when I met Adam.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done over a couple of little business things along the way, which we'll probably come to. But yeah, that is essentially where Capo started in 2017. So, like, I had drawings on a piece of paper at conservatory. Like, we've hit certain milestones recently. It's made me look back at, I've gone through the photo album on my phone, and, starting with the caps, you'll probably remember when everybody used to do those, just stick a logo on a cap.
Yeah.
There were brands popping up, or a t-shirt. Do you know what I mean? We were guilty of it. Like, some of the stuff we did early on was absolutely awful.
Yeah.
But
you got to start somewhere.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that's probably, for us, we haven't been perfect. We've just tried things and run with things. We haven't tried over perfecting things. Like, even now, we deal with factories, and they really like working with us because of the ease. We won't try and sample 17 times. And don't get me wrong, the devil is in the detail, so it contradicts certain things, but we just moved, we don't try and, like, the way we've scaled has probably pushed the boundaries at times, but we just moved, that's, just take action sort of thing. But yeah, sorry, what was the original?
No, I was just saying, the fact that you've done a lot, and I suppose off the back of that as well, 2 years ago, I done a conversation, had a podcast with Reece Ibarra, and, similar sort of background, was a footballer and then started a clothing line. And I believe he started slightly earlier than you guys. So when you started, did you see what he was doing or anything like that and take inspiration?
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong, we've all, Mania Devar, Gymshark, who else are obviously key what represent at the minute, and there's all sorts of brands that you take in. But Reece, like for us, Reese's, Zara, not just your new, but obviously we're part of, the back end of that probably new wave that I think you're now seeing in retail stores. Like, they're transitioning now to, it's not your old luxury brands, they're announcing profit warnings, certain things. There is a shift, I think, in the market for that new wave of, like, social media brands or younger end. But yeah, we've been aware. It's, like I say, it's in some ways, like, he was played at a way higher level than I did. Do you know what I mean? And we, obviously, whether he's utilised his footballing contacts for fair play to him, the level he's gone to, I respect. Like, even now they'll say, who's your competitors? Or, not beef, but, try and make comments towards the brands. I have nothing but respect for anyone that runs any business or, like, clothing brand, just from my own experiences.
Because you know what it takes.
It's fucking hard, mate. Like, even now people make comments, but it's like, me and Adam didn't take any money for 5 years. I worked alongside it for 9 years, 5 years, but I worked full time for 9 years, brought my little boy up, played football. Things everyone does that make sacrifices, but then you get the obvious people now that think it's just come up out of nowhere, and it hasn't, do you know what I mean? So I have nothing but respect for anyone, and we all take inspo from somewhere, and our inspo doesn't always come from clothing brands, do you know what I mean? You can be walking in B&Q and see a certain colour, or, do you know what I mean? Everyone takes inspo. And I don't think you have to reinvent the wheel either. Like, early on, like, all our designs were either mad colours or prints or trying to change things, but it's the same things sell that I've always sold. You don't.
You have your timeless pieces.
The Henry Royce or Ford saying that, you just take what's done and do it better. Do you know what I mean? You don't. I think we're all guilty of it, and was initially, and still, you think, if I do a certain thing or such thing drastically different than everyone else, that's the route to success or your end goal. but it's not. It's those tiny little details. And, you know, like I said, the market doesn't change that much. We all see trends. Now, that's probably a different conversation because there is these trend brands with prints, and we're very like aesthetically pleasing, basic statement clothing that most lads would wear.
Yeah.
Or appeal to a lot of lads every day. Whereas, you know, like I said, there's certain prints or certain designs and fits that are a bit out there. And
you got to have a certain acquired taste for that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because even when I do my shopping and stuff like that, whether it's holiday shopping or just casual shopping, you know, being in the positions I am and I suppose somewhat of influence, I get people who own brands all the time message me saying they want to send me out clothes. And this is no disrespect to them or anything like that. Credit for what they're doing, but it's just to an acquired taste where big fat logos on it or something like that, or a slogan that is a certain thing, stuff like that. And I'm just a simple guy. Like, I just like my plain clothes, just one-off statement pieces, things that are going to last the test of time.
Yeah.
Like what you're wearing right now, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Rather than big logo sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like, for us, we found that obviously as we're getting more data now, this, that and the other, and we'll try to release new colours, it's the same best-selling colours, regardless of what product you release, give or take here or there, but, you know, it's your black, your grey, all the staple colours that you always sell, and equally, some of our best-selling items now are the items we released 3-4 years ago. So I think that's what we've done quite well, where some brands will release something for a year. We're not as seasonal as some brands. Like, we will rerun stuff. No. So like I say, we've been guilty of bringing new things out, or we'll drop that and release, but it just, those things still sell as well as they always have done. And better, really, because lads will come back, or, you know, for a different colour or whatever it may be, because it's just that everyday clothing, or they'll wear it out, whatever it may be. But again, going back to the trend thing, I think for us, that's probably something we've done well, and we were guilty of it initially, like, because they were the day of the influencers, you know, everyone was like Towie and Love Island, or, you know, posting on Instagram, so you'd see such a brand, like, obviously at the time you didn't know it, but such a body was in a t-shirt, or, you know, like Hera, obviously Hera's done very well. That's another brand that used to like being on podcasts, and I've watched, and like the revenue levels he mentions were now beyond that, and it's like, I used to watch his podcast and think, wow, you know, when I get there, I'll have made it. Do you know what I mean? And now we're here, and I'm like, never been more stressed. Do you know what I mean? It's nuts. But yeah, going back to the original point of trends, like, we used to look and think, but then it was all ego trips. Like, those brands now have like peaked and trough. They come along, they disappear. Whereas we've kind of like come along in the background steadily. Like, compound effect,
steady growth,
1%, and then it looks like we've just exploded, which in some ways we have, but it's because of all those tiny little things. So many times when it made no sense to carry on, you know, like I say, I've said it the first 3-4 years, it made no sense to carry on, like financially and time wise. And
so what made you carry on?
I don't know. Me and Adam have had quite like genuine conversations. There was one particular conversation where he rang me and he was like, Dan, I think we're done. We had such a bill at the time, because obviously we had an American Express, and it was kind of like just not really going anywhere. It didn't warrant the time we were spending or the money. You know, there were nothing really to suggest it would go anywhere. Like, the revenue at that time was probably 20-30 grand a year. This is like 2019 time.
Profit or no profit?
No profit at all. Break even if we're lucky. You know, and all the time it was in bedrooms. You know, it's been in my house at times. It's been Adam's bedroom, which is where it started, the bedroom brand. And he rang me and he was like, I think we're done. You know, like, we've got this bill, it's coming up. And I was like, just stick with it. And even I can't answer you why I said it. You know, there was no rational reason for me to say it. He were right. You know, and that's probably the 10th time we'd had similar conversations, but that is the one where I thought, we might be done here. Do you know, like, it's time to call it quits.
Could I ask what the bill was?
It was about £6,000 at the time.
Okay. So at £6,000, you guys were questioning whether to keep.
But by that point, we was 2-3 years in. I mean, obviously, neither of us had took any money. We were trying to grow it, the social media. Obviously, it was just me and him at that time. And it was just like, there was just no signs of growth, really. And it was, again, the comparison thing, we were looking at other people, well, they're doing that and we're not doing this. And But again, just like that, we could have so easily given up then. And so many, like even now, you know, there's so many things and we stuck with it. And not long after it, a footballer you probably won't recognise him. He's called Barry Ferguson, a Scottish footballer. Probably a week or so after this conversation, went onto a podcast in Scotland. And he had a hoodie on that we had that was heavily branded at the time. And all of a sudden, me and Adam were sat there and like...
Your tea.
He had our hoodie on with capo across the front, and he's quite well known in Scotland. Yeah. And then we were sat there one night, and the Shopify notification, there was like, do you know more? Yeah, and it was like, I was like, what's going on? Because we'd never seen, they weren't like now. It's you get a bit immune to it, but at the time it was like 20, 30 notifications in the night, and you're like, what's going on here? You're looking, and then all the location was Scotland. So I'm like, what's going on here? Like checking the ads, all this, that and the other. I couldn't for the life of us figure it out. And then the day after, one of Adam's friends said, I've just watched a podcast. And so then obviously...
that's where it's come
from. And then, I'm not saying that, but it just gave us a little bit of momentum and what we saw it could be. Do you know what I mean? And alongside it, like Adam had an eBay business at the time. I had an eBay business after that, which kind of showed us what was possible. Do you know? We realised that like, I built an eBay business doing 50 grand a month for someone else. And I thought that was like when we got to 10,000 a month, I thought, wow, do you know, like, and then you think, oh, I'll be creaming money in or I'll be successful then. And then you realise, oh, it's absolutely nothing, you know, and then we got it to 50,000, but then eBay banned listings, they do this, that and the other. Same with Adam, you know, he had quite a really successful eBay business, but you kind of realise that you was dependent on the eBay platform. There was a limit. So that's when it dawned on me that owning your own brand, controlling your own destiny sort of thing was the way to go. So you think if you can do this without someone banning your listings or you owning the actual brand product, that's the way to go.
Yeah. I'm just going to break it down there. We're going to come to all the whole growth and everything like that in a second, right? But I just want to go back to the beginning and ask where the inspiration for clothing come from, because I know you said you wanted to do it, right? But you also said there and previously that you started a few businesses here and there. So what was it about clothing that enticed you to want to get into it in the first place? Because you know everyone nowadays thinks, I want to start a brand. Let's start a brand. Let's go for it. Let's take a quick 30-second break to tell you about today's sponsor, me. Come closer. I'm my own sponsor. You see, I've been working on something big for the past few months and it is finally here. The CEO Hub, a brand new place where we can learn, grow and connect together. And so the way I'm doing that is I'm hosting weekly calls with top leading industry experts and entrepreneurs that you've seen here on the channel before, directly on the CEO Hub, a chance for you to ask anything you like and get the blueprint to level up. The type of entrepreneurs that have been in your shoes and overcome the problems you're facing. Plus, we're not just focusing on business. I don't know if you could tell, but I've been going gym recently a bit, you know. And so one of our big focuses is also health and fitness too, because that's definitely a part that plays into entrepreneurship. I want to make sure that you become the best version of yourself inside and outside your business. This is the place for you to network, get inspired and surround yourself with high-level thinkers. It's the community I wish I had throughout my journey, so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to create it myself, and now I've created it for you. Look, I love helping people, and because I truly want to help you guys and to celebrate the launch, it's currently 50% off for the first 100 people that join. So how exactly do you join the CEO Hub? Just go to school.com/the CEO Hub or scan the QR code on the screen right now and it will take you directly there. So what are you waiting for? Join us now and I look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, and we would probably get, like, again, at the time we started, it was the thing everyone were doing. But nothing, like I said, no degrees in fashion, no education in fashion. Don't even now we're going to meetings and like up till recently we've only took on what you would call full-time employees. Do you know, like, where's your marketing team, where's your design team, where's this? And it was literally just me and Adam. You know, like, where's not your boardroom, but where's your senior team or whatever it may be. And it was just me and Adam. You know, even up to certain revenue levels that it was like. But to answer your question, I just had an interest, to be honest. So like I'd want clothing that I couldn't really find, or certain clothing that I couldn't afford at the time. Do you know, I mentioned like Reese or that simple aesthetic clothing that, you know, there is luxury brands way beyond what they are, but it was kind of like bridging that gap of what I wanted, but bringing it to like mass market prices, if that makes sense. And I think the market as a whole's kind of gone there. So whether we've rode that wave a little bit, I know obviously the e-com boom over COVID, but we actually pulled back at the time, which is most people think we grew, which we did off the back of it. But at the time we actually pulled back and stopped advertising because I had an eBay business, Business partner were doing other things. I ended up doing a little bit of PPE stuff, which again is another mad story. But
yeah, I suppose
whichever.
In your head, you just want to make money.
Yeah, exactly. And at the time, that's what long term, that Capo has shown and did have way more opportunity. But at the time, more money was to be made elsewhere. So it took priority. You know, we were seeing whatever the revenue was on eBay, PPE boomed. You know, like some of the stuff we were getting involved with there was nuts. And again, that was just me and another business partner. I was in the conservatory in Blackburn. He was actually living in America at the time.
Yeah.
With like doctor emails and letterheads that we were this company. Not fraudulent, we were this company, but it made it look like we was a big company and it was just me and him.
Yeah.
We can source your PPE, this, that and the other. And then you were getting care homes coming to you with like, can we have 200,000 masks? Or, and like me and him were like, how the hell do we do this? Do you know?
Yeah, I do get that with me.
Yeah, well, like we did this glove contract for this, and the gloves turned up to my home address at my mum's, and I was like, I didn't even think it through. It turned up and I was like, oh no, like took up the whole garden, pallets of stuff, and I was like, I have not thought this through.
That's what you call a true entrepreneur though. People who spot them opportunities and execute in such little time. Because don't forget, there was the bubble where people were starting to sell PPE and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
I remember it very, very clearly. A lot of people around me were doing it. But it's the thought process of, I need this right now, I need to do this right now, and I can make a shitload of money off the back of it.
So like certain care homes or health centre, they'd be like, they'd literally invoice us for £30,000 worth of masks. Now me and David had like no money at the time, not that sort of money. So what we got them to do was pay up front. We would then use the money, go and source the masks.
Yeah.
And then, but tell them it was a 4 to 6 week lead time.
Yeah.
You know, we would just pivot, like figure it out after complete hustle, the whole thing. So then we'd do that. Then the government had changed the regulations on face masks, so you then had to get a different certificate. Then the Chinese government changed the export rules, and you're like, what are we going to do? You know, like, we took 30 grand off his care home, and it's just me and him in the bedroom, but like, everyone got their orders, you know, and it was just a mental time. Like, if we would have had more capital at that time, we would have made some serious money. Like, there were just things we had to refuse. Like, say, 200,000 masks and care homes wanted.
I can understand why you put capital on pause then, because, you know, at that time, if that hasn't been making the biggest amount of cash flow, you've got to survive, you know?
Yeah.
Did you have a child at the time, you said?
Yeah.
So, you know, you've got to pay for the child's life and everything like that. You've got to pay for the lifestyle. And capital on one hand isn't making as much revenue. Right, cool. Here's this other opportunity that we can make a shitload of money in. Let's go for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that, if anything, that cash flow can fall into capital in the future.
Yeah, but then the lessons I learned from that, like I say, it opened my eyes to what's possible. Like the eBay was like my entry into it. Yeah. Like prior to that, it was Depop. You know, we were selling like teeth whitening strips and stuff like that. Sweets at school. You know, everything that everyone says. I've tried it. Do you know what I mean? It's
go on.
So yeah, like I say, then eBay was like the entry level. Then the PP was like, so you've gone from 10,000 a month to, you know, oh, well, someone will pay you £30,000 in a day. Like you realise, like you'll know now, there is money everywhere. You know, it's your mindset towards it, and that you've just got to go out and get it. Like now for us, what the revenue we're doing, like I mentioned right at the beginning, is I don't think we're successful because I know what other people are doing. You know, the extreme of Nike doing 50 billion a year, they're doing £1 billion a week. So what we're doing is just like chicken feed. Like it's just, we haven't scratched the surface. But then pulling me back 4 years ago,
you would have dreamt of being in this position.
Like I said, the podcast, like I've tagged you in stories where I've watched your podcast and they're like, there's people mentioning doing 2, 3, 4, 5 million a year. Like, oh, how do I do that? How do I do it? You know, sat there trying to take little nuggets off what they've said, and then we've kind of like gone beyond that now, and I'm still not satisfied. And that's something I've learned. You know, I've always thought, like when we took Capo to £1 million in revenue, it was a bit of an anticlimax because it was something I always thought I want to have £1 million business from being like mid-teens, and then obviously achieved it. How old was I at the time? This is only 2022. We hit that milestone partway through the year, and it wasn't like I sat in my office on my own. I was just like, is that it? You know, like there was no brass band that came out. You know, it was just the realization that it's just like numbers on a screen. It hit me then that building it is what I enjoy. Like now, the numbers we get into, it's like I say, pulling myself back. I've hit numbers that and other life experiences have shown me that, to me, like, money and numbers don't mean anything. I genuinely mean that. Like, probably get onto certain things where it is, for me now, that pursuit of progress, the journey, not the destination, that cliche. And, I get to go to work with my family every day. Little things that I've been able to do along the way for my family that mean way more to me than any number. So, yeah, I've probably gone off subject a little bit. But
you said it there, spot on, bro. I know I'm not dying to ask this, and people are probably wondering as well. What was you selling on eBay in the first place?
So we was, in the end, so you remember pop sockets?
Yeah.
So on the back of your phone? Yeah, we were the number one seller on eBay.
Okay.
We ended up getting, like, legal. There were people trying to, like, throw legal cases at us and all sorts, claiming trademark rights. So in the end, we just stopped it.
Yeah.
MacBook chargers, like, consumer electronics, basically, we were the number one MacBook charger seller on eBay.
Yeah.
But they just started if we'd have done it 5 years previous, like, eBay was free reign. You could have sold anything. And
so what year was you doing this then?
2019, 2020. Okay. So I was like, because I had the contacts in China through that, then PPE came about, then I just capitalised on that.
Yeah.
Importing, exporting stuff, it was that. And, like, you're right, like, saying Capo took a back seat, but it just opened my eyes to what was possible, really.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said the eBay store was doing about 50 grand a month?
Yeah.
So why not just continue that and build a whole, you said it there perfectly, right? You said you can control your own destiny by creating your own brand or creating your own store, right? But then why not just take it off of eBay and doing your own, I don't know, Dan's Digital, basically, .com.
We did look at that, to be honest, because I know he's, like, drop shipping, and, like, we did have a little look at that, and then even now I'm sourced, like, it's just people selling the learning courses or something off the back of it. Like, there will be people with successful drop shipping stores, I'm sure. I've just personally never found much success in it. But yeah, like, the eBay thing, like I say, the MacBook chargers, I've lost track there. Where were we going with it?
Just, why you didn't continue your eBay store?
Yes, sorry. So it just became that difficult, essentially, because they'd shut the listings down. We had, like, multiple eBay accounts. We used to buy eBay accounts off people, because that's where I realised, like, eBay would only let you go so far. As much as you think it's free trade or it's all fair game, it wasn't. Like, every time we had an account hit a certain level, you'd get certain bans, certain listings, and probably it was other competitors reporting your listings. Do you know what I mean? It just become that problematic that then PPE came up, so it kind of took a back seat, and then obviously that started petering out, and the whole thing just dawned on me, like, what was possible, and then luckily off the back of it, we hadn't wound Capo down. Like, we never wound it down all around, but it really took a backseat. Like, I didn't spend any time on it, really. And then coming out of all that, it was right. That's the route we want to go down, because we looked at Amazon, off the back of eBay. Do we go into Amazon, FBA and all that stuff with the consumer electronics? And we even looked at building websites, which is exactly what you said. It just, for whatever reason, maybe it was meant to be. And then obviously already had Capo in the background, so the focus just kind of went there in the end. So yeah, that's kind of, even though it's 7 years, like, people ask me now, it's the last 2-3 years where it's become our business. It was a side hustle before that, and things happened in my life where it kind of all come together in 2020, 2021, where I thought, right, we need to get moving with this now. Again, look at, it's such a body wearing it that's making that brand. We haven't got this. Not feeling sorry for ourselves, but kind of took responsibility for where it was going to go. I am going to make this work. We are going to make this work.
Yeah. What was the revenue point where you thought, it's time to take this full time? I need to stop everything else and go full send on Capo.
Yeah, so it's probably a good, like, relation point for someone, because I quit full time work when we was at 1.7 million in revenue.
That's far down the line.
I know, and I was lucky because my business partner Adam, I wasn't on my own. Do you know what I mean? So the business, and I was lucky with the job I had to a certain extent, because I had certain flexibility. But I did maintain a full-time job while, staying up till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, coming home from work, being on my laptop all night, or being up at 5, 6 a.m. to speak to factories in China or whatever it may be, doing what I need to do before work, coming home and doing it after. But yeah, so in 2020, when we hit the 1 million month mark, I took 2 weeks off work for the Black Friday, because I knew what was coming. I think we did, on that Black Friday, it was in the midst of the two, because I took the week off leading up to it and the week off after. And on the Black Friday, we did 45,000 in the day in revenue. And it kind of hit me then that, wow, like, it's time to take this seriously. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Not that I wasn't taking it seriously. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And my, like, certain things in my upbringing probably stopped me making the jump sooner. Plus having a little boy, you know, I had a relatively permanent, secure job.
Yeah, you didn't want to risk it.
Yeah. Now, looking back now, what's happened since going full time, I was like, why didn't you do it sooner?
Yeah,
do you know,
yeah,
it was, I always knew I wasn't meant to work for someone else. Like, it was, I didn't hate every day, but I knew, like, I'd be in meetings with just knew it wasn't for me. You know, it's leaders because I worked in local authority, or the leaders and senior managers, and they were all of a certain age, and I thought, it's going to take me 30, 40 years to get to that level, and then there's a cap on that revenue. So like the eBay, PPE, business side had showed me what was possible income-wise, so I was like, why am I going to spend 30, 40 years when I can give it a go myself? Then other things in my life happened where, what's the worst that can happen? Like, again, we'll probably come on to that. But yeah.
Was there any point, other than the point of where, you know, because I want to understand this, right? So you had the Scottish guy wearing the hoodie on the podcast, and then I suppose it was taken off from there. But what was the other point where you thought, shit's actually popping off now?
Yeah, like I said, it will be probably the $1 million a month revenue. You know, like we touched 100K a month in revenue while I was still full-time work.
Yeah.
So like it was dawning on me, but it was like, right, how do we go to the next level? So like there were 6 months, it was at like 120K revenue a month. So it was like, how do we go to the next level? Then that November we hit like 200-300. So we like jumped quite quick, and I was like, right, it's time now. You know, but even then, so I put my notice in, you know, I had 30 days notice to work at the council. By the end of the year, we'd hit 1.7 million revenue. But it was, even then, like, I was nervous about it, because it was like, I'm literally walking away from, I'd paid 10 years into a pension, or all the typical things that, like, my dad taught me to get a secure job, put your money into your pension. He was very, like, risk averse. But obviously by that point, I'd lost my dad. So I'd kind of, my perspective had changed then. And I had come round to like, what's the worst that can happen? And like I say, I look back now and think I should have done it 12 months sooner. Because cap off the back of it, not solely down to me, it's down to everything, but it has had a big part, as then the trajectories, the growth speeded up quite a lot.
What do you think was the biggest factor for getting to that $1.7 million a month revenue? Was it pounds or dollars, you said?
Pounds,
1.7 million pounds dollars month of revenue. What was the main factor?
The £1 million a year. Sorry, I mentioned month. Yeah, so in November we hit the £1 million for the year. So that's when I thought, right, take this seriously.
Okay.
We have since hit £1 million a month.
Yeah.
Rate. You know, that's another milestone. That's, you know, like you think, wow.
Is that consistent every single month now? Or?
It's not far off. Yeah. Going back to an earlier point, like in the last 12 months, we hit 200,000 orders not so long ago, and 125,000 of them have come in the last 12 months. So it's like going back to the compound effect where people do look, we have grown rapidly over the last, but that is because of the 6 years of work before that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously we are at that sort of revenue level now, the annual. But it was at the 1 million to 0.7 where I thought, right, leave work, quit. And then since then, it's obviously.
So you're telling me 200,000 orders in the lifetime of your company.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last 12 months, for 125,000 of them.
Yeah.
There must have been a whole mindset shift, or a whole business sort of shift to get 75% or so of your whole orders in 1 year.
Yeah. So, well, I did go full time January of the start of that year. You know, I'm not saying it's solely down to that, but then my time was solely dedicated to it. You know, day in, day out, all day, every day. I was looking at final little things to improve. You know, all my attention was on Capo. There wasn't an 8-9 hour period every day where I was trying to do a little bit on my phone, or it was solely on that. And, you know, just through work rate and certain decisions we made, like content creators we worked with, you know, certain content we produced that then went viral. Like we've got certain reels that have got 20 odd million views that then in advertising, we ran ads off the back of. And we've put a lot of money towards advertising, in all honesty. It's, you know, but we've had to build slowly and organically to be able to fund that Do you know what I mean? Because we genuinely started with 250 quid each. So we couldn't go and spend whatever on ads. Whereas now we've got certain facilities and resources to be able to fund this advertising. The momentum's got rolling. I do think that is the brand. Like the brand has got momentum now. It's not the little bedroom brand anymore, and it's probably took me too long to realise that we're not the small fish in the room anymore. As much as I downplay what we are, and I still think we're small, like we're not. We've experienced a little bit of that this year, naivety, where we've hit this level and we've partnered with certain things, and like we're a bit of a catch for agencies now, or whereas you think other people always know best, but really like we built it to what it is, and you do have to trust your own instincts. And where I've thought, well, it's time to pass certain things off, which I've had to do because time-wise I'm so saturated now. You do. If you're the smartest person in your room, you're in the wrong room. So, but we have made some certain wrong decisions where we've passed it off, and people have been salesmen sort of a thing, and things have not really had my hands on it, and they've gone in different directions, and it's just the scale of it now. It's trying to not micromanage it all, but keep it steering the way it's steering.
What's been the biggest mistake you've made? Everyone makes mistakes in business. There must have been one that comes to your mind straight away.
Well, we didn't. A campaign got deleted this year with £1 million spend through it on Meta. And you can't get it back.
How did it get deleted?
Well, it got in crossover with an agency, got deleted. It was by mistake, I do believe. But it got, £1 million worth of data through it in the last 12 months.
So £1 million worth of data? Oh.
Yeah, so in theory it is still there in the pixel, but that campaign, which we obviously, you can't just go and spend £1 million on a campaign on Meta because it's not used to that level of spend.
Yeah. So
it's got all that. It's been matured over time, and then it's now gone. So
all that data is wiped, or?
It's, like I say, I'm still trying to figure it out, to be honest, because it's caused a bit of turbulence. But
and you said that was within the last year?
Yeah, in May this year.
Damn.
So it's caused a bit of turbulence in the ad accounts.
And anything else?
Biggest mistakes? Probably, no, is that a mistake? We've again trusted certain people where we shouldn't have done. Allowed people into the business naively that thought had good intentions that didn't. Like the staff we've got now are great. I'm not referring to anyone that we've got at the moment, but what else mistake-wise? We've made loads of little ones, as God, we'd be here all day, but that's the big ones that stand out to me.
I wanted to ask, right, so other than the initial 500 quid that you invested in the beginning, has there not been any other capital injection from? Yeah,
so along that we've now got capital, what they class as revenue-based funding on capital facilities. Like this year we secured 7-figure funding, but it is based off revenue.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Like, it's not.
They're not just going to hand 7 figures to anyone.
No.
Like
so we got 7-figure funding this year to fuel the growth, but it's all like there's a lot of background work goes on. There's plugins to Shopify, your bank accounts, everything. So that was like a learning experience for me going through that process. Do you know what I mean? Because I've never seen that sort of money. Do you know what I mean? So then, and you do become a bit dissociated with it business wise because it's just numbers. Whereas yourself, like them sort of numbers I'm mentioning in my personal life. Not that I've not come from anything, because I've never wanted for anything, like no hardship, like food on the table, or like I needed anything clothing wise. I've had the best parents ever, but we weren't well off. We've not had affluent lifestyles or things like that. So
I'm interested to know how that revenue funding works, right? Because I think you're the first person I've met who's had something like that. So how does it work? Do they provide you with the funding based on your revenue and take a percentage of the company, or do you pay back the funding in interest?
So it's me and Adam own the company. We would never. There's no one now got a percentage of the company. So what they do is they'll plug into your Shopify, look at your revenue, look at all the data, the growth, customers, go into your bank accounts, cash flow wise, and they will then come up with a figure. So a lot of businesses on Shopify will already be aware of it because Shopify Capital do it. There's then other third-party companies now that rivals, because Shopify have started it. Now
they're seeing that there's a market for it.
Yeah, so probably for people, like there's a bit of knowledge for people in the early infancy, like your entry level will be Shopify Capital, then third-party providers. We kind of then, because of the amount of funding, Like the early ones with us were like 100, 200 grand. And how that works is they'll take back a percentage of your daily sales. So it'll be like 200 grand, 20% of your daily sales pay back, and you'll pay an 8% fee. But that figures, whatever the funding amount is based off your revenue. So they'll, depending on your sales over the last 12 months or whatever, they'll come up with a capital figure. And then they forecast you'll pay it back over 8-9 months. So what we found, because of our growth, we were taking these amounts, but we were paying them off in 3 months. So we were paying like 8% interest every 3 months. So I was like, we weren't on the hamster wheel as such. And equally without them, we wouldn't have grown as fast as we would, because we were growing that fast. Like we were selling out constantly. It was purely for stock. Like we would never take bad debt. Do you know what I mean? All businesses usually have debt of some form, but for us, like we wouldn't just to stay afloat take a loan or whatever it may be. It was purely to fuel growth. So we've kind of like, because we've got them, it was like 400,000, then 500,000. So in the year I'm mentioning, last year, 2023, we took a 450,000 one in Q3. We'd paid that back within 3 months. We then took 550,000. We'd paid that back within 3 months. So we'd repaid £1 million in 6 months, but paid close to like 90,000 in interest. So it was dawning on me, like, there must be a better way to do this. So then went down the rabbit hole, and kind of what we have now is like credit facility, a drawdown. So that's kind of like, once you go beyond the $500,000 lend rate, then you go into this. Then beyond us, you probably have direct links with the banks. You know, that's probably the next thing. So how it works now for us, you'll have a facility that's available to you, and you can draw down a certain amount, and you get charged this fixed interest fee per month, and you repay it over a fixed period of time. Because like what these companies do is, say they'll offer you £500,000, their forecast is at your current sale rate. They don't factor in that if you take £500,000,
the way you're going
to grow. And these were the constant arguments I was having. I was like, if you give me £500,000 and the company doesn't grow, where's the sense in that? Like, your forecasts are wrong. So I went through that cycle a few times, but then equally you don't grow as fast without it, the cash injection. So like I say, we then go onto the credit facility, and it is beyond 7 figures now. So that was like to be in meetings where you're talking about those sort of numbers, and you're like, is this real? And then off the back of it, gone down to London for meetings and things like that. And
what's if you can say, what is almost like the estimated figure that you've got to pay back the company for the 7-figure loan?
So it was 1.5 million at the time, and we will have repaid that by October this year.
Okay, damn. Okay, so
I'm beyond it. So probably from February this year to October, we'll have repaid over 2 million in capital.
So you would have repaid over 2 million in capital?
Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
So obviously we've took the initial drawdown, but it's a rolling facility. So as they see your growth, so like as you pay back, you can
more. So then my question off the back of that is, right, because to me, I don't fully understand it. As I said, you're the first person who I've met who's done this sort of funding like that, right? And whilst it probably is efficient, me trying to work out right now, I'm just thinking in my head, is it not easier to? You just said there that you and Adam wouldn't sell any percentage or something like that for the company. And whilst I understand that, and I probably agree with it to an extent as well, it's like, what if you sold a portion of it to an investor or something like that for big capital injection, someone who's got all the knowledge and the wealth to back it, because you and Adam clearly know exactly what you're doing.
Well, that's debatable.
Oh, I mean, you've got it here right now, haven't you?
I don't know. We've winged the whole thing, mate. I'll be honest with you. No, I appreciate what you said.
But why not that route?
Yeah, it's probably something that it's not coming onto the table because I'm pretty single-minded with it. Adam's maybe a little bit more open than I am, but equally now the realm we're trying to go into, worldwide, and like 20, trying to target like 30, 40, 50 mil revenue and beyond. I can't do it alone, and I've always said, like, if the day, I'm not precious about things, I'm happy to pass things off. But if the day comes where I'm like, I don't know how to grow this anymore, then, but equally now, even with me involved, like, I can't grow this on my own. And you see all the all the other brands that have, you know, the well-trodden path that have gone to that next level, either ex-CEOs from other big brands have come in. So I'm not naive to that fact, and it is probably something that we would need to consider, because we are trying to tackle a big market now. Like, we're looking at America.
Yeah.
You know, we're looking at Europe, which we're already in, but we're trying to then saturate it.
Yeah.
And the know-how has a value. Yeah. You know what I mean? You're absolutely right.
Yeah. I'm looking at the likes of, you know, Gymshark and General Atlantic. You know, they invested and bought into the company, and that's a unicorn business, right? And now they've expanded massively into America, all over Europe, all over Asia, etc. The list goes on and on and on. Now, whilst it seems like they've got an efficient workflow, it's due to the investor, that sort of thing, right? Yeah. Because as soon as they came on board, things were popping off straight away, and things were being able to put into place, just like that.
Yeah, no, like Represent, I've watched certain podcasts, and he's mentioned the ex-Puma CEO, like literally that hire took him from 20 to 50 million revenue. Yeah. And that's kind of the point we're at, you know, like, we're probably we're going to stumble towards 15, 16 million this year, you know, and it's like it's nuts to even say that, do you know what I mean? And I still feel frustrated with it, it's a learning process for me this year to like, but then equally it's, what is the end goal? Do you know what I mean? But you're absolutely right. Going back to your original point is that, like, if we bring the right person in, the value add that they would bring is way beyond money. Do you know? It's not beyond money, but it's quite literally money. But
it's relative of it,
it's not really a value that you can put on. So it is definitely something. Whereas I've always said it'll be me and Adam. You know, we started it together, we'll finish it together. It is definitely something that it's coming onto the radar. You know, and so people are approaching us now. That's like, we've had valuations and, for insurance purposes, for other purposes, you know, it's like people are mentioning certain numbers, and you're like, nobody wanted to know 2-3 years ago. Like I say, we're doing 50 grand, 500,000, 1.7, 7.9 last year, and then doing what we're going to do this year. It's like, it's quite a lot for me to, you know, get my head around, as much as it's not, because I get so wrapped up in it. But then when you do take a step back, you think, wow, like when you asked me right at the beginning, I honestly don't think it's successful. You know, to me, I know it is and it isn't, but I then look, right, how do we get to 50? But then I know I get to 50 and go, how do we get to 100? It's the realisation of, you know, like, how much is enough, I suppose. And
I'm looking at it right now. So you just said there, and I don't know if you said this in year order. So you 1.7 million, 7.9 million, and then this year predicted almost 16 million, something like that.
Yeah, we're well.
So you're more than doubling every single year, right? Yeah. You know, that first 1.7 to 7.9 million, that's almost 6x, 5x, whatever you want to call it. So that's massive in itself.
I think up to the start of this year, obviously, because we had to do quite a lot of prep work for this funding, we'd averaged 20% growth month on month and 300% a year for 3 years.
Like, that's what I'm saying. That's crazy. And if we look at that next year, that's going to be about 40-ish%.
Yeah,
which is mental.
Yeah, but then equally, like, we're, like I say earlier, we're probably a bit.
That's what I meant. Yeah. Go on.
Probably a bit bigger than I thought in the UK. So we're probably, you know, like, we have now got to expand internationally. It's not this ever-ending growth in the UK. You know, that growth isn't going to continue at that rate. Yeah. You know, we are going to have growing pains. And, you know, again, going back to the funding, I think because it's probably a bit of a voodoo subject. You know, people don't like to mention it, but without it, we wouldn't have grown as fast as we have. You know, we used it to capitalise on the growth we saw. There's a lot of risks we've took. I'm not saying, you know, there is. I'd like to think we thought it through, but we've probably took too much risk at certain times. But then without risk, there's no reward. Cliche, is there? But yeah, that is, for me, it is. I'm just, how far can we take it? It's like, I don't really like thinking about investors or selling, because people are like, would you sell? You know, I don't. For me, it senses like complacency. Because then I know I've mentioned things like we'll represent $100 million, or Nike's doing whatever, Reese is doing 260 million a year, and we're doing 15, 16. And that's for me, like, probably why I'm doing this podcast, because, like, to mention 15, 16 million, like, my business partner's business is doing that. It's mental to even say it. But then I'm now here and look up to someone doing 10 times what we are. And it's a dangerous game, do you know what I mean? It's like, for someone to relate that middle ground, really, of, you know, you don't just go to 250 million a year. You know, it's not like, because that's not relatable for someone. They don't know how they've got there. Do you know what I mean? It's like, for us, we have gone from 10 grand a month to this, to this, to this, to this. Do you know, and we haven't had X background. You know, it's just hopefully trying to show what's possible, really.
What would you say you value the business at now?
I wouldn't like to. Again, it's worth what someone's prepared to pay. You know, it's like, I am so conscious of, in theory, if we do what we're going to do and what we've already done this year, it's probably worth 8 figures at least, you know, depending on what the EBITDA finishes at and things like that. We got valued last year at 2.5 million, and that was like mid last year, and it was a conservative valuation at the time. So, yeah. And then you see certain companies are valued at 30x. It's what the multiplier is, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's like, I know you like Gymshark, blue chip or whatever, but it was at a certain multiplier that probably most businesses aren't going to get. Tech companies get certain multipliers, don't they? But I don't like to think about it, in all honesty, and it is dawning on me. It's because of where my family started from. I'm my business partners. It's life-changing money. You know, I earn more money than I've ever earned previously. You know, more than I've ever seen. But like that sort of money is
different levels.
Yeah, like certain numbers that mentioned or where we could get to, and you're like, I'm set. Like my little boy's set. Everyone around me could be set. You know, it's like, is that real? Because like I said it like 2-3 years ago, genuinely no one wanted to know. Now factories that make for X brand are contacting us, and it's been a mad couple of years, to be honest.
The whole operation,
like the factory, one of the main factories we use now, I contacted 4 years ago, and we couldn't meet the minimum orders. We're now probably the sole customer that they deal with. For them. Yeah.
It's mental. How many employees do you have for Capital?
Probably at the warehouse 16, 16, I would say. Some are part-time. They went in our freelancers, and then we have the factory in China, which technically aren't employed by us, but...
What about like head office sort of structure? Is it still just you and Adam?
So it's me, Adam. We've now got merch we brought on recently, which was great. Fair, Paige, our designer. But that's really, then we've got 2 customer services. One's my mum, Michelle, the other lady's Cam's sister, who's one of our mates who now runs the warehouse. Yeah. It's complete family. Like a lot of my aunties work there. Adam's wife, his mum, his mum's mum. So yeah, it's complete family. Like my grandma and granddad, actually, my grandma were 87 last week, and she still works there by choice. Like I actually get bollocked if I don't find her work. So yeah, it is a really, like, that's generally, you probably see it, like, that's where my satisfaction comes from. So from working in a full-time job, 9 till 5 desk job, to now going into work with my mum there, my auntie, grandma and granddad, you know, and what it gives for them.
That must be such a nice feeling, bro. Yeah, honestly, like having a family-run business, pretty much, you know, and the whole family's in place at somewhere along the line.
And business-wise, like I probably mentioned this before, like every little thing in our business is done by someone that cares, you know. And I know, like, younger people are more tech-savvy or whatever, but the younger people we've had, they're either on the phone all the time. And I know I sound like I'm only 31. It sounds like but my point is, like, everything, like customer service, every email, the repackaging when it comes back in, it's like my aunties do it. The orders that go out are done, like how it's packaged, you know, how things are checked. All those tiny, tiny little details are done by someone that care, that go the extra mile. So I do think it shows like we have a really strong return customer rate.
Who was the first person you took on from family?
My mum. So basically it was me and Adam while I still worked full time. Adam was part-time, then Adam went kind of full-time, then he got maxed out, and I was like maxed out but still trying to maintain the job, so my mum went to help him. Then a couple of his family members, like Julie, Adam's wife's mum, then Cam, the lad that's now warehouse manager, he helped out a little bit, but obviously it was only part-time work. Then he got a job somewhere else because we couldn't offer him a full-time job. Then we've got him back to come as full-time warehouse manager. But yeah, it's just grown. We've run out of friends and family now, to be honest. That is genuinely, we've got no one else to employ. But yeah, we do have to employ value add. Not that they don't bring value, sorry, but, you know, expertise in certain areas now.
Yes. No, but I actually love to hear that, man. The fact that, you know, your family are in the business. That's actually almost like an emotional one. So when it does come to the conversation of valuations and exiting and all that sort of stuff, I can understand where you're coming from now, because it is a family-run business.
Yeah.
And it's not at the point where you want to exit it or anything like that.
And it's probably like jumping back to the eBay business. It's probably like why I started. I don't know whether we go into it or not. I lost my dad in 2018, and off the back of like my mum had retired pre that to, in theory, enjoy life, and my dad, they were both due to retire. Then my dad got ill. My dad passed away. And my mum was very much lost, in all honesty, like, and then she didn't need to work because she'd retired, got a pension, X, Y, and Z. But she mentioned like going to work at the co-op or, jobs. I was just like, Mum, you don't need to do that. But it was, and I could tell it was just to have routine or something. So that's kind of why I started eBay. Then she ran that for me while I worked and things like that. And now, she's like runs customer service, and I have to literally tell her to go home, even though she's supposed to be semi-retired. I'm trying to get her to do less. But then I know how much it means to her. She enjoys helping me. Adam, my business partner, thinks the world of her. Like for me to see what it's done for her. Then my auntie, equally, we lost my uncle a couple of years after my dad. And then she was in a similar situation to my mum. So what it's given to her is like immeasurable, do you know what I mean? Goes beyond any money. Certain things have been able to help my grandma and granddad out with, certain things we've done that like money, the value that's given to me is way beyond any money and any revenue numbers I've mentioned, it's, because again, referring to my dad, like I could have been a billionaire when what happened and I wouldn't have changed it. So for me, it's like, I've always had that perspective of money means, it doesn't mean nothing, don't get me wrong. I know it helps lifestyle. There is a lot of benefits with it, but when at the end of the day, it doesn't mean, it's not the be all and end all for me is what I'm trying to say.
Talk to me about that if you can, because, losing a father, I mean, my dad is like the best man in my life, right? The way he's guided me throughout my life, I can't imagine. I know one day it's going to happen where I'll lose my dad, but I don't want it to happen anytime soon. And I'm sure back in 2018, no one wants to lose their dad at the end of the day. And no one wants to lose their dad that young either. You would have been, how old at the time then? 27?
Yeah.
27-ish, something like that?
Yeah. Sorry, 25.
25.
Dad, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
If I lost my dad now, I'll be devastated. I'm 27 years old. Losing your dad at 25, I want to know how that was for you, bro. Because I can't imagine you being able to stay focused on running business or be able to stay focused on life. The way it tears family.
No, I do associate a lot of Capo's growth to it indirectly and directly, to be honest. Plus my life perspective changed off the back of it. Like the lessons it taught me, it just, he was my best mate, just like the way you refer to your dad, it was like, my dad was not my life, but, going back to my football background, it was, mum and dad was there every training session, took me everywhere, like with my, assisting me with my dream to be a footballer at the time, took me every training session, took me to like running lessons, little things that a lot of parents do, but it was there, probably never missed a game in my whole life, once when he had to have an operation. And just all that, but it weren't just that, it was life. Like I did work with him for a period of time, not with him, but he was in the office next to me because he works at the local council as well. So what I'm trying to say is he was a major part of my life and the alpha figure in my life, to be honest. Everything my dad will sort it out, and again, the football, but he then also taught me, I mentioned earlier, like risk averse. He was very, be careful. Like if I mention now what we're doing, I do gotta give anything for him to see what's going on. But he'd be like, whoa,
Yeah, your dad's looking at you from above.
Yeah, how much have you just signed that lease for or whatever? He'd be like, pulling his hair out. But he also taught me like you can always like football, no matter how well I played. It was you did all right today, lad. It was never, you were best player on pitch or whatever it may be. But the context of it and what it's done for my life, it was such a sobering experience. Because, again, to throw a bit of a curveball in, 2 years prior to that, I'd lost my brother quite suddenly, who was 30 at the time. But like I said, he did have a heart defect, so he had like certain procedures.
How many siblings have you got?
I've got two brothers, two half brothers, but like. So my mum had some somewhere else, my dad had a son, then they had me together sort of thing. But they're my brothers, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, blood. So was it one of the half brothers? Or?
Yeah, so this is my dad's side, John. So long story short, he was born with a heart defect that most babies die with at birth, but he didn't really become apparent till he was like 19, 20 when he were exerting himself in the gym and kept passing out one thing and another. So he had to have like open heart surgery at mid-20s basically to try and correct it, which it did, but he had like a pacemaker and certain things, and his heart was quite weak. But basically what happened this day was I'd been out the night before, and then my dad rung me on the Sunday morning and just said, your brother John's in hospital. He's got a chest infection, but he's all right. They're just giving him some antibiotics and he'll be home later today, sort of thing. So I said, all right, well, I'm leaving Bolton now, which is like 30 minutes drive away. I'll come and see you on my way home. So I obviously just set off, and then as I got to Blackburn, driving into like the Blackburn Hospital where it is, like still vividly remember now, like my dad was still in the car park. And I just knew, I just knew. And then as I got near, I could see he'd been crying. And I obviously I'd never seen my dad cry. Like, he was quite an alpha figure, strong figure. Very, like, immensely supportive of me, like my best mate. But, he was quite hard in certain ways. And then to see him, so again, basically I got there, found out my brother had passed away. In that 30-minute phone call, basically he'd had a cardiac arrest in front of my dad. Tried to revive him and couldn't, basically. So that was 2015. When my brother was 30, like I say.
So hear that, man.
Yeah. But the reason I know it's not sympathy, everyone's been through things, but it's a lot of context to my life, I think, and then losing my dad, because like my dad, you should never lose your son, but it happened in front of my dad. Do you know what I mean? And I'd never lost anyone prior to that, and then you walk into the hospital and you've got to go and see your brother laid on a table. I know that's quite a graphic, grim thing to say, but it's something for me that I vividly remember. Do you know? Yeah. It gives me perspective. So then off the back of that, to jump forward a couple of years, my dad got diagnosed with cancer in 2017, which at the time was curable when they diagnosed it. So they thought
early stages.
Yeah, so it's stage 2 at the time, esophageal cancer, which in hindsight is probably one of the worst ones you can have, but we obviously just go with what the doctors say at the time. It was a case of have 9 weeks of chemo, then have surgery, and that was to cure it essentially. So he had the 9 weeks of chemo. But again, just touching on that, like at the time I was playing like Conference North football and probably on the upward curve of me, because I was early 20s and doing all right at that level, and apparently certain people were watching and this, that and the other. And then my dad got ill, and I took the decision to like drop 2 levels of football and play locally, which I would do again. It's
so you could be closer and around him.
Yeah, to be honest with you, that season I didn't end up playing much at all, because I ended up just being around my dad, and then certain things happened which meant I couldn't really play because obviously he got iller and iller. But yeah, just like that is another pivotal thing where like I probably thought my life were gonna maybe go down the football route. Things happened which I would still do the same things again, that shifted like my life direction and consequences. So sorry, going back to it, he had chemo for 9 weeks. That all went well accordingly, shrunk the tumour. Then he had open heart surgery in September 2017, which apparently went like that was probably one of the worst days I've ever experienced, because you'd literally just sat there. It was a 9-hour operation, and it like got to 10 hours, 11 hours, and I remember like pacing up and down the hospital. And then obviously eventually he had come out, and it was planned he'd go straight into intensive care, but then you go into intensive care and your dad's like wired up to monitors, and just again, I know I'm mentioning it's just because I do vividly remember these little things. And basically 4 days after the operation, he had a cardiac arrest as a complication of the surgery through infection. So I was in the hospital hotel, and my mum had gone across to see my dad in the morning, like the hospital phone rang. So I thought, that's strange, like a proper old telephone. I was like, that's weird. Picked it up, and they said, oh, it's such and I can't remember his name, such and such, but it's head of ICU, you need to come immediately. So I was like, well, what's wrong? And he was just like, just come immediately, wouldn't say anything. So just run straight across to intensive care. Like, as I've gone through the doors, they've like shepherded me and my mum into a room. And they're like, basically your dad's had a cardiac arrest. He's in a critical condition. We don't think he's going to make it, sort of thing. Obviously his body's already weak because of the major surgery he'd had. And yeah, it's literally critical. Like we've managed to revive him, but it's critical. But to fast forward a little bit, basically for 4 weeks, he was like on a ventilator. He had tracheotomy where he was breathing on a machine.
4 weeks after this point, then?
He was he was recovering from the cardiac arrest for 4 weeks and the surgery.
Yeah.
So it was like, it was a real double whammy for him. But anyway, 4 weeks he did recover, and then he came out, went on to normal ward. Then he came home in October 2017 to basically recover. We still thought it was road to full recovery, but like we'd come home at night. Mum was retired obviously, so she was looking after him. I'd come home from work and like my dad would be having his tea, and then he'd be being sick like instantly after his tea. And I used to be like, my mum would be getting upset. I'd be going to sink with my dad, like being sick. I used to feel like something not right here, you know. Anyway, next couple of months transpired. It didn't really get any better. They just kept saying, it's the surgery he's had, because basically they cut your windpipe and your stomach and join it. So it's major surgery, and they just kept saying it's part of his recovery. So, again, to fast forward to January, New Year's Day, 2018, he was just that ill at home and weak. We took him to hospital. Like, he'd just no energy, and he'd lost a lot of weight. And then the next 2 weeks were a bit of a whirlwind. So he was in Blackburn Hospital for like 12 days, if I remember rightly. But his specialist care was in Preston, like another local hospital. So he kind of got transferred from Blackburn to Preston. And within 2 days of being there, they diagnosed the cancer had come back, and it was terminal. He had 2 years to live, basically, is what they told us. That was, like I say, mid-Jan. And then he died 3 weeks later, never came. Well, he was in hospital for 3 weeks, and then he went to the hospice for the last day or so. And then, he like passed away, basically. So I know I've rattled on a little bit there, but the reason I mention it is like, I lost my brother quite suddenly. Whereas with my dad, I watched him deteriorate, and really quickly towards the end, like he never came out of hospital. And again, giving context to my life, like me and my mum slept on a little mattress at the side of his hospital bed for 3 weeks, because in the same clothes, we didn't want it, like nothing in the world mattered to us other than my dad then, the PE family. And that's why I mention it, because certain things in my life, a bit materialistic things that have come into my life now that mean nothing, like last year I've got my, in theory, dream car or dream watch, certain things that, and I actually felt guilty after getting them, if I'm honest, because you just think, my dad's not here, or like, what does it actually matter? It's all for show and doesn't mean nothing when you go back to these times you've had. So, yeah, just certain things I saw with my dad, like washing your dad or doing certain things you shouldn't really see, and he deteriorated really quickly. In the end, like, I had to like pick him up, wash him again, certain things, and then he actually died as I had hold of him. I had hold of my dad as he died in 2018, with my mum and other family members there. So, yeah, I think, again, to reiterate why I mention it, it's off the back of that, it's kind of really shifted my views on life. I have always seen life a little bit differently, I think, but it was kind of like, you realise your mortality. Because like you said with your dad, it's like, because your dad's always there, or my dad will sort it, or whatever, and it's like, then that alpha figure's just gone.
Yeah.
Like, and you've seen him deteriorate, so you realise, like, we're not all invincible. As much as we all think we are, we're not. We're also not here forever. So there are a lot of, like, lessons that I took from it, and even things like that relate to business. Like, when my dad was ill cancer-wise, I wouldn't accept what they were saying. It was like, his terminal, there's nothing we can do. I was like, but there must be a way.
Must be something.
And that is, someone mentioned it to me yesterday, a close friend, like, and he vividly remembers how I was. Like, I was challenging doctors on certain, like, drugs that they could give in America, like rabbit hole type stuff, and probably what some people would say tin hat stuff. But it was the fact that I went down every possible avenue, and I always, even to the day before he died, if I'm honest, I still thought I could stop it happening, or that's what I was trying to do. And then obviously, because of how ill he was, I accepted what was happening, do you know what I mean? But again, just to reiterate, it's like, off the back of it, I realise we're not here forever. Like, I hope, God willing, I live till 70, 80 or whatever, but I don't see that as that long of a time. Do you know what I mean? I want to get out of whatever I've got long left as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And I know that, like, every hour, every day counts towards that. Do you know what I mean? And I know it's a bit, I'm 31 and I'm talking about like I'm going to die tomorrow. It is a little bit pie in the sky stuff, but it is kind of how I live my life, and it drives people nuts around me, to be honest, because I'm so bit 100 mile an hour or helter-skelter, but I would like to think I get things done that not everyone would get done, do you know what I mean? Because it's just, I have this pace of that, I've got to do it now, I can't do it tomorrow. It's, you know, you can't leave it till next week, I might not be here, or it's just the outlook on life.
Do you know what, bro? I'm the exact same way when I think about it, right? Because I'm a man of God. So there's two things I want to say off the back of that, right? Being a man of God, you mentioned there's something right now is, you know, even up until today, you feel like there's something you could have done. What I will say is, when it's your time, it's your time. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing I could do about it. There's nothing doctors can do, anything like that. When you know, I'm a Muslim. So in Islam, we say, you know, it's, literally, if God's written for you, it's written. So I don't think you should kick yourself up or anything like that about what you could have done, anything like that. And just pray for your dad, essentially. And then the second thing I'll say off the back of that as well is, like you, being traveling at 100 miles an hour all the time, because I've lost loads of people in my life, family members, friends, etc. The list goes on. And so I'm aware of death. I'm not scared of death, but I know that death can be at any time around the corner. So every day, not to say I live every day like my last, but I always want to do the best that I can in case I'm not around next week. So that I've done what I can, so that other people going around can be like, okay, cool, he's left some sort of legacy. Rather than planning my life 50 years ahead, this is the legacy I want to leave in 50 years. Forget that, because I might not even be there. Let's do what we can now to the best of our abilities to make sure that when we do pass, week's time, year's time, 2 years time, whatever the case may be, we've left an impact on the people we love and the world, essentially.
No, I completely agree with everything you just said, mate. Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's like, again, to harp on about my dad, it's like his view was build a pension, get to 60, 70, retire, then enjoy life. And then my dad did that, literally got to his retirement age and passed away. I was like, so then for me, it was just that case study essentially of, well, that, you know, like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to wait 40 years. Like, I might not be there, or why not waste 40 years, but like you just said, make the most of it now. Like, tomorrow isn't guaranteed. You know what I mean? It is cliche stuff. I know it isn't. I suppose unless you've had like real life experience of it, it's like I would have when I was early 20s. I hadn't lost anyone in my life. And you think I was guilty if I'll do it tomorrow. And again, the reason I mentioned is what's happened to me is that's kind of why I shifted and, you know, changed the trajectory, I suppose, and direction I were going in.
I think your dad would be very, very proud of where you've taken things, man.
Yeah, I hope so, man.
Goes against the grain of his risks adverse, but I mean, I think you'd be very, very proud of what you've done.
I always do. I think I would love him just to see it. You know what I mean? It's like something that does. Even like my little boy, you know, I think like that's what bothers me, that I don't really have any regrets with my dad, to be honest. Like, I had the best dad, we were best mates, and I told him I loved him all the time. I said it at his funeral, like I genuinely don't. And I think that's kind of why I'm kind of not at peace with it, but I don't have many regrets with regards to my dad. Do you know what I mean? It's just that I wish he was here. That's basically all. You know, it's not that I wish I'd have done more with him or done this. And again, like, I know there's different circumstances in different families, but I just wouldn't take people for granted around you, do you know? You know, it's like, we are not here forever, and your family, you know, you're lucky to have family. Like, even now, certain situations I go in and, you know, people with a dad, and it does hit you, you know, it's like, wish my dad were there, or this, that. Or football now, it took me a long time I still play semi-professional football now, and for like probably two and a half, 3 years after my dad died, I hated football, because he weren't stood watching. So it's took me a bit to find the love for it again.
How old's your little boy?
He's 5 now, 6 soon.
Okay, so he's growing up, man.
Yeah.
What's it like, fatherhood?
Amazing, yeah. To be honest, so sorry, I've probably not touched on that enough as well, because it happened probably found out 2 months post my dad passing. So it kind of was a pleasant distraction, if that makes sense. I shouldn't refer to him as a distraction, but like after my dad died, I was quite angry for a period of time, and like I was going to the gym at 11, 12 at night every night just to tire myself out because I couldn't sleep. And then 6 months down the line, 9 months, whatever it may be, Leo came along, and you kind of had a new focus to focus on. Like I couldn't go off the rails. Not that I would have gone off the rails, but you have that different purpose in life, and on it, like the love you have for your little children is
you have that responsibility.
Yeah, that's it. And it's like I went from being the child to a parent very quickly, not just of my son, like even the family. Like it's quite a big dynamic shift of when I lost my dad, because he kind of like the man of the family.
And then was it you, like the man of the house?
Yeah, like, and even pre him passing, because there was only me that could really calm him down when he was ill or talk to him. And like when my dad was in intensive care going back, I couldn't really cope with all the monitors going off and beeps and this, that and the other, where towards the end I was the one that could kind of cope with what were happening, and my mum couldn't. So I kind of ended up looking after my mum, and you're trying to appease family members because they want to see your dad, and then after it organising the funeral, and then like after that, just trying to make, like I said, setting the business up to make sure my mum were all right. Not that I did it for her, I did it for me. I'm not saying I did it for her, but you just kind of take on the man of the family role. And then Leo came along, and you got to look after him. And it was just a sobering thing of like, you are on your own. There is no one coming. In a lot of senses, not just because of my dad, but I think for people with parents now, you can be quite reliant on them, or their views can be imposed on you. I know that's probably another conversation, but essentially it's you decide your own destiny, don't you?
Of course. If there was a point in your life that you could go back to, what would it be? Just one point, one moment, one day.
Yeah, it would involve my dad, no doubt about it. Yeah, particular days probably hard to choose, but anything with my dad in, yeah, I would. I know it got asked if you could have three people at a meal, like one of them with my dad, do you know what I mean? It's anything, just another like meal or whatever, another cup of tea or whatever it may be.
Straight cup of tea.
You've mentioned cups of tea before, haven't you?
Oh, love it. Yeah. Tea. It's a family tradition/ritual of mine. At 5 p.m. every single day, when everyone's back from work, when everyone's come home from, my sister's obviously she just finished university, when everyone's back, straight in the pack lounge, no one's on the phones, get the cuppers out, get the biscuits out, get the digestive biscuits. Mate, it's going off. Yeah, it's going off.
No, but like that means to you, probably means so much to you, doesn't it? And
it's family time,
no
bro.
Flashcards involved.
I think about it in the future, and I'm not tearing up over it, but my eyes are getting watery over it. The fact that you think about it in years' time, there's going to be a day when that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Whether my mum not be around, whether my dad not be around, sisters get married, move out, whatever the case may be, it's not going to be like that. So we try and enjoy it as much as we can. Probably, which is why my diet's fucked. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I'd choose family over anything else, and I wouldn't have it any other way, man.
Yeah.
You look at life differently when you are surrounded by family and stuff like that. But I want to ask, what does future projections and everything look like for you then?
Yeah, I suppose what is, like, probably, I've mentioned certain numbers, but like, I know to the moon is always something I say, but like, I do want to see how far we can take it. Like I said, we're probably on course to do 15, 16 million this year, which is mad in itself, but I do want to see how far, like 50 million then beyond, and maybe I'll get down the line and think, someone will offer X, but I don't think that'll be the case. I do want to see how far we can take it. So I know other people like 100 million, if we can take it to 100 million revenue, I think it's possible. Maybe I'm a bit deluded, but it is no doubt possible. So
I think that's possible easily. Yeah, I'd say in the next 3 years, easily.
Oh yeah. It's whether the right people have to come in for that to happen. But yeah, probably diversify me a little bit, because I don't know, it's probably a conflicting one for me, because like, again, subject to balance, I see anything else as a distraction now. But because of what we've built, there is certain opportunities present themselves. Could I be capitalising on that a bit more? I know like this is so uncomfortable for me, like podcasts and speaking on cameras, and it's not me whatsoever. Like it's pretty ironic really. Adam, my business partner, is such a loud character and extrovert, but yet he won't do these. He doesn't like doing them. Whereas you probably won't put us together really if you met us separately. But I like promote to myself of stepping out your comfort zone and things like that. So again, going back to it, personal branding stuff, equally for the business benefit, that's some, you know, but then I think we are who we are. We've always been like just behind the scenes, and like, do we show more behind the scenes with the family stuff of me, what we do? Because I know content and engagement's going that way.
Definitely as well. But at the same time, whilst I agree with personal brand and everything like that, I think where's your brand and your business is in such a great position, and it's only going upwards, God willing, you know, attaching a personal brand to it can in some way, what's the word? You know, it's harder to exit when you've attached a face.
Yeah,
to it. You know, if you look at the likes of Ben Francis, Gymshark, etc., and all that sort of stuff, it's harder to do that. And whereas I don't know, it depends what kind of type of person you are, really.
Yeah, because I think, like, again, going back to the organic side of not having influencers, or, you know, it's because it's a good product at a good price. Yeah. You know, like, the fundamentals of what we've built on, really.
Oh, spot on, yeah.
Plus, I think, like, who wants to watch me in gym or, you know, having my morning coffee at my desk or something, you know what I mean? Equally with this, I think who wants to listen to a podcast, but I am coming round to it. It's things, you know, again, I'm always thinking about how we can grow, like, is the market changing? Is advertising changing? Is content changing? Like, trying to be ahead and on the next waves, you know, it's that is what we're thinking. But yeah, again, like that, I'm so conscious of it going the other way because it's took so long to get here. The stakes are higher than ever, as much as people think they see certain things like a nice car or whatever it may be. You know, like there's like the funding. What we're going to repay this like the amount of money that goes out month on month that me and Adam are responsible for. It's like, would you take on that responsibility? You know, like the answer is probably people wouldn't. They wouldn't work for however long with no money. So again, going back to the balance point with, do I then look into other things? You know, like I don't know, property or whatever. It's like I'm just so conscious of it going the other way. And not taking it where I think it can go. Because all I see is all the best people are obsessed. Like McGregor, I know he's a bit of an idiot at times, but his mindset is so like, he just like went through a fire through the UFC just because he visualised it and, you know, mentally beat people. Like Ronaldo, Messi, I know it's the old Messi or Ronaldo. I personally am a Messi man, but you can nothing but respect Ronaldo and take a lot of business things from him because he's so dedicated and he's got the absolute best out of himself, you know.
It's people who are the best and do the best to their absolute ability they can. Yeah. That's the people you take inspiration from. Stuff like
people that, I know everyone just wants that magic bullet, don't they? Or just do one thing, but it's not. It's those tiny little shitty jobs that you don't want to do. Or, like I said, like going back to that moment where I could have easily said, let's wrap it up, no, we're done. 2-3 years ago, we took no money. But again, just sticking with it, that tiny little thing, even though at that point I didn't realise that yes or no decision had such a different trajectory on my life that I didn't have a clue at the time. Yeah. And for everyone now, those little 1% things every day that
make a difference.
Atomic habits and things like that.
That's it. Do you sell women's wear?
Not yet, no. Again, that's like what's next. It's active wear. We've just released footwear, going international, released a small kids range, and then women's is on the radar. But that's me being me, trying to tackle everything at once.
Yeah, but that's mad interesting because, you know, I think I'm going to have to check this, but I recall the conversation with Reece Ibarra, and he made a switch between primarily being menswear to primarily women's wear. And I mean, we look at where his business now and that switch that he made because, you know, from what he said and from what I've researched as well, women buy 2-3 times as much as men, and the repetitiveness of women are quick impulsive buyers and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
You know?
There's a market. That's the thing for me. It's like, what market or what revenue stream are we not doing? You know, like footwear, right, do that. Or also don't want to do everything because I think, you know, there's a fine balance. But like you look at Zara, you know, they have whatever a guy wants to wear or a female. They've got, like, you're going out to a wedding, you're going out with the lads, whatever. They've got that offering. Yeah. That's kind of the model we want to go down long term. But yeah, that's.
I think it'll be interesting, bro. It'll be interesting to see where everything goes in the future, man. And definitely think we should do a part 2 in the future. I think I need to come up to Blackburn.
Blackburn, yeah.
Blackburn. I think I need to come up to Blackburn, check out the whole operation, see what you got running behind the scenes, and I think you will definitely get to that 100 million mark easily. No doubt about it.
Yeah. I just like certain, I know it's jumping back again, but certain things, like basically we had a legal case last year, just for people to be wary, like as they do see success, that there are vultures, there are people that don't have your best interests at heart, and like one of them we couldn't have foreseen. Basically, a certain family and people plotted for like a year or two, essentially to royally stitch us up. They basically claimed to own the rights to Capo and went to the leading legal trademark.
Is this people that you know, or
no, people I didn't even know?
Okay.
Me and Adam basically tried stealing the whole company, everything we'd ever worked for off us. Cost us basically 50,000. Well, 8-9 months of stress is the most of it. 50,000 plus in legal fees, and basically it just went away because they didn't have a case essentially. But they were like, for us as newcomers to business and not having much experience around us, the way they went about it, most people would have crumbled. And it's just like, and there's other things like certain people that have wanted to represent us, and people are generally only in it for their own gain. I know that's probably a negative outlook on life, but you just have your wits about you. And like we could have literally lost everything. Like took 6-7 years. People have seen the success, watched us build over a period of time, then slapped a legal case on us. That luckily we managed to resolve, but like it for 8-9 months, and then you've got staff at that point, you've got certain commitments, and you think we could lose everything here. So yeah, just to touch on that, like just do your homework on people. And like now again, it's probably made me, when you mention investors, I'm probably a bit more negative or conservative towards it because of certain experiences I've had. Like I'm wary of everyone now. It's almost like me and Adam versus everyone and our little team, but that can't be. We're not going to go and do the 100 million doing that. But we're learning as we go.
That's it, bro. That's it. What would your message for the audience be who are watching this right now, who have made it up to this point, listened to your whole story, listened to every life lesson that you've given in this podcast? What would your message be to them? Yeah, just whatever. Like, if you've got a business, I know it's CEOCAST. So in terms of business, I say if you've got an idea, just start. Like, just literally start. You're in the data age. There's Google. There's endless resources. Financial facilities available. I'm not saying go and borrow money willy-nilly, but if you've got an idea, there's nothing stopping you, is basically what I'm saying. Go and give it a go, rather than have that regret in 5 to 10 years. Life advice, I don't think I'm in a position to start giving out life advice, but for me personally, I just try and, like you do, live life to get the most out of it. We're not here forever. Try and be a good person, I suppose. A bit cringy, but, your family around you, look after your family, look after the people around you. And whatever you want out of life, don't live your life for someone else. Like, I was probably guilty of that at times where your mates are going out. Like, I don't know, I've been out, I've done all, I wanted to do that. But I also realised I were a bit different. So whatever you want to do in life, just go and do it. Because we're not here forever. And so the clock is ticking. And I think having that awareness does make you go to the gym today or do that job today. Not I'll start next week, I'll start Monday or in the new year. And the best time to plant a tree is now, the old. That's it. Guys, me and Dan want to thank you guys for listening to this episode. And if you made it up to this point, Dan, what's the word that you live by? The word I live by, relentless. We want hashtag relentless in the comments. If we see that, you're going to get discount. And if you made it up to this point, use code, what was it? CEOCAST. Code CEOCAST at capouk.com for some discount. Now, like I said, hashtag relentless. If you like the podcast, you watch us now, make sure you share it with your friend. And make sure you subscribe. Until then, catch all of Dan's socials. Where can they find you? Well, I'm private, to be fair, but No, we got to switch that. You're going for personal brand now. We're going to switch that. By the time this podcast comes out, you're going to be public and everything. At Danny_Wilkes and then at Capo UK. There we go. The brand. There we go. All the links are going to be in the description. Like I said, hashtag relentless. And make sure you use the code CEOCAST at capouk.com. Until then, guys, I'll catch you lot on the next episode of CEOCAST next Sunday, 7 p.m. Peace. Cool, what we got here. Trainer hoodies, we love it. Let's give the unboxing. Oh, I love cargos. You've got your two pairs there. I appreciate it, bro. Right, let's go through this to round up the podcast. Dan, I want to appreciate you. No problem. They look sick. I'm going to wear them straight in mobs on Monday. Those 30. Let's put that like so. They're cool cargos. Can't go wrong with cargos. Absolutely love them. And they're the exact material that I love. What's the material called?
Polyester.
Okay, but yeah, these because you know these are so nice and light, and this I wear cargos in Dubai all the time.
Yeah,
and the nice light ones like this, you can breathe in them.
Yeah,
whereas like the ones I'm wearing right now,
there's actually another pair even lighter than those.
Is it?
Probably one of our best selling.
Sick, bro. Appreciate it.
No problem.
What we got here?
I think that's the cargo shorts.
Cargo shorts.
Got the pants on as well.
Yeah, we love cargo shorts. Straight, 30, mobs, the whole gear.
Yeah. Then hoodie.
I said to Dan, I'm going to Marbella on Monday. Kit me out. And you said this is a hoodie, yeah?
Yeah.
So is this what you're wearing, but in black?
Slightly different branding, yeah.
Okay.
Just plain branding, that one.
Yeah, I love
this
it.
This is the training club stuff.
Okay, so anything on the back? Yeah, capo. We love it. So when you say training club stuff, this is what like, would be under your active line or something? Or?
Yeah, so this is going to piece into our active stuff. So
Sick.
Doing final stage sampling of that at the minute. So hopefully next year that's going to be
hopefully, man.
launching.
Hopefully, sick. Well, I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that working.